Please help Progressive Voices support the Green News Report by stopping by bradblog.com/donate.
Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, then hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bets. Cause we know where we at, we know we top tier. Cause all the hate that you bring, we know it stops here. I'm taking off like a rocket here, ain't stopping here. It's strange how they cannot see the future, but see profit here. Wait up, we gon' always win. Hello, I can't take no loss. My team hold no L's, no. Aiming for the top, can't make it by myself.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Day 2 of the shutdown. Day 2 of the shutdown. I got to be honest. The shutdown, Sky, tell me if I'm wrong about this. The shutdown is a little bit like those alien hearings we had months ago, maybe almost a year ago, where a bunch of like Air Force colonels and top officials sat down in front of the Senate and said, yeah, we've seen alien crafts. I know we're holding alien bodies. We've got multiple reports of alien sightings. And the whole world was like, next. Like nobody cared. Nobody cared. And I'm getting those vibes right now. Like nobody's talking about the shutdown. Nobody I've seen yet has been affected. Nobody I've talked to yet has talked about people in their life that have been affected. I don't talk to a ton of federal workers, granted. But it's a little bit, we're kind of no-seeing this. We're kind of just going about our business. But there are forces within the administration that are going to see to it that you feel this. Okay, that's going to be the point. In just a little bit, we're going to get to all that. But people aren't really talking about it. Not in my life. So there's been some polling about it. The Washington Post did some polling about it. I'm just going to share you a couple figures here concerning the shutdown and how people feel. Because nobody wants to talk to me about it. So we checked the polls. Who do you think is mainly responsible for the federal government partially shutting down? 30% of those polled think the Democrats are responsible. 23% of those polled, they're not sure. Don't really know who's responsible. And 47% feel the Republicans are responsible. It's funny. They're kind of falling in line with what 2011 Don and 2013 Don had said, which is, it's the president in charge, the party in charge. It's that simple. You got to make a deal. You've got all these, the Republicans have the House, the Senate, the executive, and they have SCOTUS. They have the Supreme Court as well. Let's be honest. They have four. They got 4. And people are kind of seeing that right now. Like, you've got all the power. You're doing this to us, right? How else should we see it? And that's kind of how it's shaken out. And independents particularly, 22% of independents polled think the Democrats are responsible. These are the ones I care about, right? There was some other polling on how Republicans and Democrats feel about who's responsible. You know exactly how those went. So I'm going to save it. But independents, 22% of independents polled feel the Democrats are responsible. 50% of independents polled feel the Republicans are responsible. I feel like that's reasonable. That's kind of how they should be seeing this. And of course, independents like Republicans and Democrats all take part in the ACA. All right. Everybody's got ACA coverage. So many millions of us. You think there aren't going to be Republicans, Democrats, and independents caught up in this? They see this fight for what it is. Many Americans see this fight for what it is, and they want their health care protected. That's going to affect them directly. As much as any policy we could pass through Congress, this is going to affect them. When polled and asked, should we extend the ACA coverage? Those polled, regardless of political affiliation, 71% said they should be extended. And then there's this sadistic 29% that says, no, don't extend it. Let healthcare fall into chaos. Bleep everyone. Like, who are you? Like, that's not even, that poll didn't even say, like, should we extend it at the cost of something, right? Should we extend it with some kind of consequence? No, just should they be extended? 29% of people are like, no, don't extend it. Kick everyone off their health care. I don't know who you are. Please don't come and identify yourself to me. Please. Yeah. So everybody wants the ACA extended. Everybody wants it. And more people are seeing this clearly than not, as far as who's doing this to you. More people are seeing it clearly than not. That's a good thing. Now, will this, depending on how long the shutdown lasts, will this, clear-eyed perception of what's happening in Congress right now and who's doing this to you, will this clear, perception of it last till 2026? I guess that depends on how bad Trump and Vought are willing to make this hurt. And how long are the Democrats willing to stand strong? That, I feel like those two things are absolutely connected. How bad does this hurt, and how much will we remember this in 2026? Now, we told you about what happened with the votes. Okay, the Democratic version of the resolution, October 31st, trillion for Medicare and Medicaid back, ACA subsidies extended, public funding back, claw back some of Trump's power over the budget. That was their version. Republicans' version, none of that. $80 million for security for congressmen. That passed the House, right along party lines. Speaker Johnson immediately closed voting and went home after that vote, sent everybody home. So the House is closed, leaving it in the Senate's hands. Both versions of the resolution hit the Senate, and now they've been voted on 3 times. Well, the Democratic version was voted on twice. The Republican version was voted on 3 times. Completely along party lines, or not along party lines, I'm sorry, along the original lines, which is 53-47, 3 Democrats for, 2 Republicans against, and everybody else along party lines. And that happened consistently 3 separate times. Leaving the remaining pressure of the situation on Chuck Schumer, no doubt, and John Thune. Although Thune's bargaining position is much stronger than Chuck's. So, John Thune, here we go. We are going to see what happened in 2018 possibly play out again. And I know that based on what John Thune is saying and based on some of the responses he's getting from what he's saying. And what is John Thune saying? He's saying, we're going to let the pressure build on the Democrats on this. We're going to let the pressure build. But we will negotiate with you. He said clearly there are members among the Republicans in the Senate that are going to want to negotiate specifically and only about the ACA subsidies extended. He's saying there's a path to negotiation here. That's what he's saying. John Thune's saying that. And he said, quote, he said a few things. Quote, I keep telling them when they have 8 or 10, preferably 10 or more, when they have a critical mass, let me know if there's a conversation they want to have. What he's saying is, we'll negotiate once you get me my votes for the Republican version of this resolution. Then we can negotiate. I promise. And he's saying, look, there's negotiations are happening already. We're already talking in back channels. Some more bipartisan leaning members of the Senate have already been talking. And it's true. Just yesterday, there was a scene playing out where some of the senators were on the floor just mingling, very dignified, statesmen doing their thing, very calm, very collected. They were gathered, commingling, talking, negotiating. Little cliques had formed We saw the video. Little groups had formed that were talking, and then some members would go to another group and talk about what they had discussed, and so on and so forth. So they are talking. Mark Wayne Mullins, he was in the corner, shadowboxing, building up a sweat and like staring down anybody in the room. He didn't want to talk nice. He is a amateur pugilist, and he was looking to get into a scrap. He was like bouncing. He was looking to get into it. It was like the jungle. He was making eye contact with everybody. Nobody took the bait, thank God. Nobody took the bait, and amateur pugilist Mark Wayne Mullins had to shadowbox the entire time. Nobody would talk to him. But here we go. This is the Dreamer situation all over again. Why do I say that? Because very clearly, John Thune is promising something that he may or may not have any intention of following through on. Just like in 2018, Schumer wanted protections for DACA, the Dreamers. He wanted it put in the stopgap funding bill during that shutdown. The Republicans wanted $5 billion in border wall funding. They negotiated. They came to the table. They talked about it. They negotiated. Border wall funding didn't get added. Later on, Russ Vought diverted military funding to start building it. Among other things Russ Vought did during Trump's first term, which we'll get into. Oh, yeah, we're going to get back into Russ a little bit because he's a big part of this. But on the other end, Mitch McConnell had promised Chuck Schumer, listen, come sign the bill. Let's get this funded, and I promise we will have debates and negotiations about the Dreamers. And they happened. After the bill was funded, or after the government was funded, they sat down, and they had negotiations and debates, and 3 proposals were put forth, and all 3 were shut down by the Republicans. No protection for the Dreamers at all came from any of it. And here we go again. John Thune is telling the Democrats, get on board with the Republican version. Give me those 10 Democrats, or let's get to 60 votes, so we can pass this. And I promise you, we will debate about the ACA subsidies. I promise you, we will have negotiations. Look at all these people talking already. Look, I'm telling you, we've got members that have told me they're very concerned. He said that. I've had members coming to me, senators coming to me, saying we're concerned about the extension. We gotta negotiate. Thune's telling them this. There's hope. I promise you, there's hope. Just sign this. Just sign. All you got to do is sign. And he said specifically, I will not negotiate during a shutdown. So there it is. He will not be negotiating during a shutdown. And why do I feel like this is a real problem in terms of bending and believing him? You've got some who are in a camp of, I don't know if they're the spineless camp or the rational camp. But there's a small camp of Democratic senators who are very much open to taking Thune's deal. One of them, Tim Kaine, Democrat out of Virginia. He said, quote, one of the reasons probably why there are some of us is that Republicans are telling us, we agree with you. For our own interest, we have to fix this. That's what Tim Kaine said. He is in a camp of Democrats that want to take John Thune's word for this. We have seen what the Republicans have done with these promises before in this exact same scenario. Elizabeth Warren, she had something to say about it. She was asked by Jen Psaki. She's talking to Jen Psaki, and Jen Psaki says, Thune says, sign it, and we'll talk. What does Elizabeth Warren think about this?
So let's just say this one more time. From July until today, we've been asking the Republicans to negotiate over the health care assistance, right? And their answer has been no. Now that the government is shut down, he says he won't negotiate when the government is shut down. He wouldn't negotiate when the government was open. I'm not hearing a world in which John Thune wants to negotiate. All I'm hearing is a world in which they just want to play politics and they'll do whatever Donald Trump wants them to do.
And that's the real rub at the end of that. Not only does she very seriously doubt John Thune's sincerity when he says, we'll make a deal. We promise we'll make a deal. Not only does she doubt that, he wouldn't make a deal when the government was open. He's not going to make a deal now. But she also said they're going to do what Donald Trump wants. And you know how you know that's true? I'll tell you how I know that's true. Because John Thune said, quote, what I can't guarantee, of course, is an outcome. And in particular, one that would clear in the House too. The White House is another factor here. But I think everybody realizes we want solutions. Oh, that's a very downplayed way to say that, John. The White House is a factor? Yeah, it's a factor. It's a big factor. Because if Donald Trump doesn't want them to make a deal, guess what they don't do? Make a deal. If Donald Trump says specifically, promise them a deal after they sign and then bleep them, I believe that scenario is probably a little bit more possible. Just tell them we'll do this and then bleep them.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Now back to Brett Breaks Things, smashing spin, silencing the noise, and keeping it all facts, no fluff.
All right. Well, I told you who's doing this to you, and we're going to get around to him. We're going to talk about Russ Vought a little bit more. We're going to talk about him more. I told you who's doing this to you. And I've told you why they're doing it. And a lot of the Republicans, when faced with, what are the Democrats so upset about? It's the ACA, it's the healthcare, right? It's the public funding. And why did these things get demolished? Because of the tax cuts. And the Republicans are doing a really good job of talking around it. Scott Bessent takes a different tactic in terms of these tax cuts that caused all of this. He leans into it. He's very proud of what he's doing to the American people. I'm sure he's completely emboldened by the administration's stance on these negotiations. I mean, they won't even come to the table about the ACA extension. Not even the extension. Forget clawing back the power or the $1 trillion to Medicare, Medicaid. No. We won't even come to the table on the one thing that will actually right now negatively affect everybody, including their own voters. Scott Bessent leans right into it.
Mr. Secretary, there's a piece yesterday, an op-ed piece in the Journal, I think from the editors themselves, that said they were urging Republicans not to get soft on some of the Medicaid cuts that we saw in the OBB, and that they're starting to see some buyer's remorse from moderate Republicans in their willingness maybe to talk about extending these COVID-era Obamacare subsidies. I mean, the way Obamacare is right now, and I don't know, maybe you're good with, you were in investment banking, you can design something perhaps better, because that's why we're in this mess. That's why we need these subsidies right now, because it doesn't work the way it was intended. And all the unintended consequences of Obamacare are coming home to roost at this point. That's why we need $1.5 trillion to try to keep it afloat. Can you fix it? What would you do?
Well, Joe, what we're seeing is President Trump's leadership. We're seeing this, what's going to be a dramatic cut in prescription drug prices, which is one of the bigger parts of the healthcare budget. So President Trump is laser focused on that, negotiating with Big Pharma. And just to be clear, the spending cuts that occurred in the one big beautiful bill were the largest in history. And we're not going to go back on them. That I came out from behind my desk and wanted to join the government to right the ship and get our fiscal house in order. We were left with a mess. It was the largest deficit when we weren't in a recession, weren't at war, and we are fixing the deficit. And there could be a discussion, but this isn't the way to have a discussion. Shutting down the government and lowering the GDP. We have a 3.8% GDP, and the Democrats shut down the government. That we could see a hit to the GDP, a hit to growth, and a hit to working Americans.
He's right about that. We could see a small hit to the GDP. But yeah, he's saying no. It was the Democrats' recession deficit It was all this crazy spending, so we had to cut the tax rate for billionaires. Oh, yeah, because of Democrats' waste and spending. We had to cut the tax rate for billionaires. Of course we did. We had to make that permanent. What's so hard about that? And, the Democrats getting upset about this, you can't just go shut down the government. You can't just go shut it down. Even though Donnie in 2011 and Donnie in 2013 said if the shutdown happens, it's on the president's head. He's not gonna quote Don then. Promise you that. That won't be happening. Won't be happening. Now, the Democrats are right now in a position, the unenviable position, to sit here and cheer for a shutdown. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And they're saying a lot of things about this. I do want to bring you some quotes, on some of the positions that these Democrats find themselves in. Hakeem Jeffries has said the Republican health care crisis is immoral in nature, and the Democrats are fighting hard to reverse it. Cruelty is the point when it comes to the Republican Party. And Chuck Schumer himself has said Republicans tried to bully us into supporting their proposal, but they can't even get 7. So they're talking tough, they're standing tough, okay? Tim Kaine, I told you the quote he said about possibly getting suckered in to John Thune's promises, but even he has perspective on this. He's not stupid. He said, is a deal really a deal? If we do a deal, will everybody abide by it, including Trump? So even the ones open to negotiating aren't babes in the woods. They see this, for what it is. And Thune, for his credit, he keeps hitting it. He keeps pounding it. And he keeps having votes. Every day he's going to have a vote. Every day of this shutdown, he is going to have a vote in the Senate over the Republicans' version of this resolution to keep it open till November 21st with none of the concessions. He's going to do it every day. And that's going to be a real good meter for us to watch of possible crumbling from the Democrats. Is it going to continue day in and day out to be a 53-47 vote with the exact same senators voting the exact same every time? Or will it go 54-46 and then a week later 55-45? What are we going to see? Are there going to be signs of cracking right there in the vote every day? John Thune's, he's going to find out. He's going to give his side every opportunity to see the crack in the armor, or give the Democrats every opportunity to see their side folding. He's going to do it every day. Every day. Jackie Rosen said, I'm hoping that people don't die because the Republicans and Donald Trump are shutting down this damn government. She called Trump a baby who won't listen. Dick Durbin said, we've watched President Trump do what he's doing to this country. Everybody has, Dick. Everybody has watched this. Some of us, unfortunately, Mr. Durbin, are watching it in glee. What percentage of Americans are watching this happily, getting their popcorn? We'll find out in the midterms. We'll find out. But yes, we are all watching this. We are definitely all watching this. So the Democrats are saying, look, we're going to stand tough and we're going to let it get as bad as it's going to get. Russ Vought, Donald Trump, do your worst. And we are betting that the optics will work against you. We are betting, especially when these healthcare premiums double, and in some places the subsidies just go away altogether, we're betting that they're going to blame you. Graham, he doesn't see it that way. Graham doesn't see it that way. They've got their base breathing down their neck about standing up to Trump. And Graham knows, quote, how this movie ends. He said this will be a gigantic flop for the Democrats. Gigantic flop. He's thinking that when Russ Vought starts to do his thing, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. We've already seen signs of Russ's handiwork. It's already started. Okay? We've got cuts, defunding, firings, all on the horizon. I mean, right over there. All of it's about to start to happen. We're going to get into that. And Ocasio-Cortez, she sees it for what it is. This is clear political retribution. We actually have an obligation to resist. We have an obligation to not comply and participate in this corruption. Because by participating in it and by bowing to it, we enable it. Okay. All right. She said in particular, these federal firings, these firings out of these agencies, her and the Democrats all think this will really, really turn against the Trump administration, that this is going to be a particularly bad look. Bad look. And even Mark Warner said, I've heard from federal workers and their leaders. I've spoke to them. They are demanding, they are begging us to push back from this. They know what's at stake. The federal workers themselves, their leaders, their bosses, the higher-ups, they all know what's at stake, their jobs and more. And they are begging us, Mark Warner says, to fight back. To fight back. There are those who are working against the Democratic Party, and some of them are from within. And I lament to bring to you some of what I'm going to bring to you. But in the next segment, I'm going to get into some of the challenges that the Democrats are facing. But it looks like this. Some of the challenges the Democrats are facing from within look like this. Rep. Jared Golden, a Democrat out of Maine. He is the one Democrat in the House that voted for the Republican bill, the November 21st with no concessions. Yeah, he's the one Democrat. How indicative is he of how others on the Democrat side feel? That remains to be seen, but he said he blames his leadership. He blames his leadership for listening to far left groups who are demanding that Democrats put on a show of their opposition to Donald Trump. He's calling it a show. He said the shutdown is hurting Americans and our economy. And the irony is, it has only handed more power to the president. He's right about that. So again, is that the spineless camp or the rational camp? You decide.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Brett Breaks Things. Fighting for America, one mic drop at a time.
Some of you may have been wondering previously, who was that one Democrat that voted with the Republicans in the House? And it was Mr. Golden. And I'm going to let that marinate, what he said. And I'm going to let it marinate the fact that maybe the Democrats aren't quite as together on this as we previously thought. What would the cracks in their armor look like? What would it sound like? That might be what it sounds like. There are those that are fighting the fight. Rep. Dean, she flat out confronted Mike Johnson, trying to get that stammering, stuttering, lying Mike Johnson that we love to listen to. Not the cool, calm, collected one that has all his lies and his propaganda straightened out and is on a friendly network. Not that one. The one that gets caught off guard. We like to listen to that Mike Johnson. He's funny.
The president is unhinged. He is unwell. What are you doing? A lot of folks on your side are too. I don't control. Oh my God, please. That performance in front of the generals, I didn't see it. Is so dangerous. You know I serve on Foreign Affairs and Appropriations. This is a collision of those two things. Our allies are looking elsewhere. Our enemies are laughing. I just left. You have a president who is unwell.
She's talking about the president's unhinged. She's referring to the comments made in front of the generals and the admirals in that meeting, and we're going to get to a little bit more on the Pentagon in just a little bit, but she's saying that this guy's unhinged. He's unwell. And Mike Johnson, and Ms. Dean, she talked later about what's going on.
But you know what? I think they wanted to shut it down all along. Why would you send your members home? Every Democrat is here. We're here to do our job. If there was a solving moment here, if there were adults coming to the table, wouldn't you want your members here to avoid the shutdown? They shut this down, and it didn't have to be this way. And who's going to get hurt? My constituents all across this country, most especially around their health care. Starting tomorrow, they're going to start to get notices on their ACA premiums and the changes to that. In my district alone, suburban Philadelphia, at least 20,000 people are at risk of losing their health care. Those are real people with real needs, and they are directly going to be hurt. The president wanted to shut this government down, I will tell you that. You saw what Russ Vought said. He's not talking about furloughing federal employees. He's talking about firing them. That's what this is all about.
I said that a week ago, and then I reiterated it when more facts came out a couple days ago. Yeah, I'm not sure that this wasn't part of Vaught's plan all along. I'm not sure that they're not going to enjoy this a little bit. I feel like this whole shutdown is not just, in their eyes, something that's acceptable. In Trump and Vaught's eyes, this is an opportunity, one they have been relishing. I already told you about what would shut down and what didn't. I told you about the important stuff: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the military, prisons. I told you about the stuff that's going to stay open and what's not. I also told you the judiciary will only be doing criminal cases, no more civil litigation, including the 300-something lawsuits currently in progress against Donald Trump's administration and all of his executive orders. They freeze. They stop dead in their tracks. So Don gets more power of the purse, can just, brush aside any reports from Congress about appropriations, just dismissed. And I'll do what I want with that money. This is good. This isn't good. This'll do. This is no good. Whatever he wants during this shutdown. Now he's unleashed Russ Vought. Took the leash off. Russ Vaught's about to go wild. He is about to have his wildest dreams come true. He's about to go wild. I'm not so sure that this wasn't part of their plan. And how ironic. And how ironic. Because this was the Democrats' plan. Oh, yeah. Yeah. This was the Democrats' plan all along. I told you yesterday how little power they have right now till 2026. And although some of you may think this is folly, the fight they're picking, they realize this is the only fight they can pick at all. This is the only way to get your health care back. They have no avenues at all without Republican support to get your health care back or extend the ACA. So this is the fight they had to choose, and they saw it coming months ago. Chuck Schumer had this cooked up months ago. After his disastrous capitulation in March and the blowback, not just from his party, but from his voters, he was determined to never have that happen again. He was determined to get the subsidies extended. He began calling everybody months ago: Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, progressive groups, labor union leaders. He wanted everybody on board with a simple message. This shutdown is the Republicans' fault because they won't give you back your health care. We all right now have to decide to stand firm. This is coming. This is our chance. Get on board. This was months ago. He even went to social media influencers. He even tasked his aides and other senators to go to social media influencers and push the message. They know where they failed in the last election. It's very clear to them one area they failed was with younger voters and not utilizing social media to its fullest extent. And they're determined to not make that mistake again right now. And they stood tall when they had that meeting with Trump. And Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer came out of that meeting, and they were so proud to tell you we didn't bend a bit. We didn't bend a bit. And J.D. Vance said in response to that, it's one thing to say that we should solve the healthcare crisis for Americans, even though you won't say it. It's another thing to say that we're going to shut down the government unless we give the Democrats every single thing that they want. They're lying to you again. He lied immediately after that meeting. The Democrats are willing to come to the table and negotiate if you will at least consider the ACA subsidies. It's sounding more and more like the Democrats are going to let it go with the $1 trillion and let it go with the public broadcasting. They're willing to kind of let that go for now. if you will just extend the subsidies that are going to affect your voters, Republicans. They're standing strong. And after that meeting with Trump, they turned around immediately and spent $1.2 million on ad campaigns and social media influencers to spread their message. So he got them on the same page. For now. Here's the bad news, Democrats, and I promised you I'd bring you some. And I'm sorry I have to do this. I lament this portion. But there is bad news here. There's bad news in terms of the Democrats' cohesion, their unity. There's serious concerns, not just within the party, but in the minds of the Democrats' voters. Oh, yeah. Democrats' favorability amongst their voters, amongst registered Democrats right now, is the lowest it's been in 35 years. 59% of Democrats, registered Democrats, feel the Democratic leadership is doing a bad job, is failing them, and disapprove. Only 40% approve of the job they're doing. That is a 35-year low. There has become a clear division between the progressives and the centrists. It's becoming clear. And there have been attempts within the party to fix this. One attempt last Friday in Aspen at a nice retreat, and they called this the weekend, okay, where Democratic speakers showed up together and they wanted to rethink Democratic strategy. And they had some big speakers like Nancy Pelosi, Josh Shapiro, Mayor Rahm Emanuel all spoke there. Emanuel came out of that meeting and he spoke about it even more, acknowledging that there are risks to this shutdown, acknowledging that. But he's saying Schumer can't cave. He sees this for what it is, Rahm Emanuel. He said, this is Trump's shutdown. Just repeat that message. This is Trump's shutdown. He wants it repeated. They all do. There are attempts to fix this deep division. And there are bright spots. See, a lack of clear leadership is one of the things that Democratic voters have pointed to in terms of losing faith in their party. There's no clear leader. Republicans don't have that problem. They don't have that problem. They've got literally a clan, a cult hierarchy with a very clear leader and very clear generals and very clear capo de tutti capis. They know who's in charge. We have a problem with the Democrats in that arena, but there are bright spots. Gavin Newsom. I know some people are divided on him. Some Democrats feel different things about Gavin Newsom. But he's one bright spot that Democrats may be able to rally around. I mean, he has challenged the White House directly, pushing back on the federal troops in his state, going on social media, embarrassing him, and now leading the push to take back some of the House seats that are going to be taken in the gerrymandering that goes on in Texas. He's willing to play the same game, fight fire with fire. Some at this weekend and some others in the Democratic Party on both sides, progressives and centrists, may be looking towards him. Then there's guys like Mamdani, who all Democrats love his ability, his creativity to reach voters. And they don't have a huge problem with his campaigns focusing on affordability and living wages and a comfortable life within major cities, especially considering he's running in New York. But he's too progressive for a lot of them. Some major Democrats won't back him. They won't touch it. But depending on how popular he is, he could be somebody that the Democratic Party can rally around. Maybe. But they are facing serious dividing points amongst their own party. Some centrists have called the party, we're talking about within the government. Some, congressional Democrats have called the party weak and woke. They feel uncomfortable about the transgender agenda. Some within the Democratic Party feel that we should be tougher on immigration, get more on board with Trump's policies. Some have called us vague, politically correct, or overly intellectual, as if that's a bad thing. And some centrists just want us to focus on economy and the jobs. Stop dividing our message. I hate to bring you that bad news. I don't know if you realize these things. I didn't realize till I started digging in just how bad it may have gotten. And you've got Golden out here talking about my leadership in the Democratic Party is misguided and they shouldn't be fighting Trump. That isn't a good sign either.
You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line. Brett Breaks Things, fighting for America one mic drop at a time.
Okay. I hate to do that, right? This is bleak enough. And I know a lot of what I just said, some of you don't want to agree with it. You don't agree with it. Brett, you're wrong. God, I hope I am. But I hope you guys realize this is stuff we need to know. It's important to know where we stand and to know exactly the challenges we face. Now, I will say this, a caveat is when you bring it out a little bit, right? When you zoom out a little bit, they may have a few disagreements here and there on basic democratic philosophy and what the party should be worried about and look like, who we should be talking to, and what we should do about these things. There may be some philosophical differences within the party, no doubt. But when you zoom out a little bit, everybody is aligned with an anti-Trump dictator stance, philosophy, agenda. Make no mistake about that. All of those disagreements and diversions and different opinions within the Democratic Party, the Democrats, all of that pales in comparison to the potential threat of more Trump power. And everybody in the Democrat Party understands that. So although some of these factors may play into what's happening right now in the shutdown and some policy making going forward and what to do with the budget, things like that, where to spend our money, what candidates to run, yeah, refer back to what we just talked about and the difficulties those things are going to face. But when it comes to stopping Trump's dictator agenda, they're all on board. Let's be real clear about that. Real clear. And nobody is on board with what Russ Vought has planned for us. I mean, I talked to you yesterday about who this guy was, right? First Trump term OMB, diverted the military funds to the border wall, realized we can call on emergency acts, emergency situations to kind of get things done. Look at the fruits of that here now in the second term. Oh my God, did he really go wild with that? He had already floated the firing of tens of thousands of federal workers in Trump's first term. Look where he's taken that now. And it's in our face. It's in our face. It's right here. It's right now. The weaponization of the OMB is so very real. It's so very real. Project 2025 has come to fruition. All of our fears about it are now realized. And it's going to play out in such a tangible way over the next 3 days. He has already clawed back $1 billion, in funding to New York City for their Hudson River Tunnel project and their subway extension, immediately weaponizing it to hurt a blue state. He's already clawed back $8 billion in the Energy Department funding for projects in blue states only. 12 Democratic-leaning states. $8 billion in funding. He said today, Thursday, I'm going to meet with Trump And Trump and I are going to discuss which agencies would be targeted for farther reaching cuts this week. He signaled, Russ did, that he would be focusing on agencies and programs that the Democrats value. How ironic that this administration created a weaponization czar and appointed Ed Martin to end the weaponization of the federal government. In the face of what I just told you, Vought and the president are going to sit down today, and that discussion is going to be, what agencies can we cut that the Democrats value? This isn't some secret message he sent to Donnie. This is a statement out of the man's mouth to be recorded and relayed to you, the American people, right out of his mouth. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And of course, he crafted this memo and he sent it out to all the agencies' heads. And he said, layoffs are happening this week. Then he got on a conference call with some Republican leadership and said layoffs are going to happen in a day or two. This call happened yesterday. He said the layoffs are going to begin in a day or two. Right now. It's happening as I am bringing you this podcast. And he was not specific about how many layoffs he's talking about. He was purposefully not specific. Let's just see what he and Donnie can come up with. They are restrained literally only by their imaginations. Because according to the last resolution in March and all of his executive orders and what the Supreme Court has had to say, there are literally no other restraints on Don and Russ right now. None. No guardrails. No restraints. Not during this shutdown. The only restraint is their imagination. And I told you Lindsey Graham specifically pointed to Russ Vought and the danger that this may pose, not just to the Democrats, to everybody. And he spoke on it. He said, this OMB guy, you need to watch him. I think there's definitely a downside to a shutdown for the system. I think he will try to wreak havoc on the workforce. Lindsey's not out here saying, well, the Democrats' spending forced us into cuts and this is just a response to that and we can't go back on our... No. He's saying, I think he will try to wreak havoc on the workforce. Lindsey Graham said that. Mike Johnson said, quote, Vought has been thinking of this his entire life and his entire career, how to downsize the government. That was out of Mike Johnson's mouth. That was out of his mouth. Kevin Kramer, he said, no one should doubt Russ Vought when he promises to wreak havoc on this government. No one should doubt Russ Vought when he says he's going to fire everyone. I mean, we've got footage. The shutdown is coming. The firings are coming. You got the...
They're doing it deliberately. It's going to harm them. Because Russ Vought, the OMB director, has been dreaming about this moment, preparing this moment since puberty. Russ Vought has a plan, and that plan is going to succeed in further empowering Trump. This is going to be the Democrats' worst nightmare, and it's of their own making.
Yeah,
But this is what they're doing.
Okay. So that's Mike Lee telling you this is the Democrats' worst nightmare. Russ Vought is the Democrats' worst nightmare. He has been chomping at the bit to do this very thing his entire career, possibly his entire life. This is the Russ Vought who helped orchestrate large portions of Project 2025 using his shadow budget that he cooked up in the 4 years that Biden was in charge. Meeting with Republican leaders, cooking up his shadow budget, injecting it in Project 2025. And then when Donald Trump ran for president and was asked about it and forced to speak about it, it being Project 2025, he'd never heard of it. He doesn't know what you're talking about. It has nothing to do with his platform. Project what? Huh?
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do.
Some good, some bad. I would love to hear you expound on the bad in Project 2025. I dare you. I dare you, Don. Tell us what was bad in there. I double dog dare you. Okay, so on the campaign trail, he's saying, I don't know anything about Project 2025. I have nothing to do with it. Even though my last OMB director wrote it, and he's going to be my future head of OMB. Other than that, I don't know anything about it. What's he saying today? Oh, it's a different tune today. He put on True Social, I have a meeting today with Russ Vought. He of Project 2025 fame. To determine which of the many Democrat agencies, most of which are a political scam, he recommends to be cut, and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. Thanks, Chuck Schumer. That's what Chuck did, and he's pointing right at it. Thanks, Chuck. They are not stupid people. So maybe this is their way of wanting to quietly and quickly make America great again. President DJT. Now, that last bit was so clever, I have my doubts that he even wrote this. He's being funny then, right? He's being funny with that. He's saying the Democrats aren't stupid. So them handing me all this power in March, it's because they silently and secretly want me to make America great again. That's pretty clever, Don. I got to give you credit. That's why I doubt you wrote it. Kevin Madden said something interesting about Vote, and I wanted to kind of, I wanted to get your opinion on this, and I'd love for you to reach out to me. I'd love for you to reach out to me on social media, on the YouTube page or our website, wherever. Reach out to us. I'd love to know, genuinely. Listen to what Kevin Madden said. He said, Vought is an expert on how the system works. Democrats can't stand him, but they probably secretly wish they had their own version of him. That made me pause. And I had to think to myself, Brett, do you wish the Democrats had their own Russ Vought? Man, that is a tough one. That is a tough one. This question I have posed to myself, and now I am posing to you. It smacks of the question that I posed to you after the Texas House jammed in gerrymandering legislation when they were supposed to be meeting about flood relief. And I said, should the Democrats get on board with this strategy? Because there was rumblings that Gavin Newsom and maybe some other states would get on this. They would make moves to counter the Republican gerrymandering with gerrymandering of their own. And I asked you, and I had to do some introspective thinking. How do I feel about this fight fire with fire approach? The end justifies the means approach. So now here we are. Russ Vought and Randy told you that he would be the greatest threat to American life, the greatest threat to democracy, to checks and balances. You're all looking over here and you're looking over here, but where you need to be looking is at Russ Vought and his power over the budget. She told you this was the problem. She told you he was the enemy. And now here he is, in a position with nothing stopping him to execute his master plan. So, my dear watchers and listeners, I ask you, do you wish the Democrats had their own Russ Vought? Do you wish we had somebody who's willing to subvert and trample the Constitution to get the Democratic agenda where it needs to be? Or where this person believes it needs to be? Do you wish you had a guy who would seize control of our government in the shadows, bypassing Congress to hurt the Republicans, hit them really where it hurts? Again and again, do you want that guy on our side? I'm not judging you. whichever answer you eventually come up with in your heart. I'm not judging you. I don't even think I have an answer myself. Do we want our own Russ Vought?
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back tomorrow to break it all down.